Picture this. You're in a class. One student is testing the limits. Another one is eye rolling. A few of them are interrupting. And there's another one just whispering into their friend's ear in the back corner. And maybe there's another one that's in front of you that's completely checked out. And your training brain kicks in. Yeah. You say, okay, we got to set boundaries, enforce the consequences. We got to maintain control, classroom management. And yes, structure is essential. But here's the first question I ask myself in moments like that. Is this really a discipline problem, or is this a disconnection problem? Because sometimes the issue about tightening the rules for all of the learners isn't about strengthening the relationship. And if we misread it, we might be treating symptoms instead of the cause. And that's what we're diving into today: how to tell the difference and why it matters and what you do about it. Hey there, it's Kelly. And if you're here for miracle fixes, shiny classroom hacks, or whatever today's buzzword is trending, yeah, not gonna happen. What you will get is real talk about English teaching, teacher training, and the chaos we actually deal with in ELT. So let's get into it. So, jumping into my teacher skin, one of the biggest mindset shifts that I've ever had was realizing that behavior is a form of communication. Silence in your classroom, that's a form of communication. Sarcasm, communication as well. Disruption, absolutely communication. And what are they telling you? Sometimes it's, I'm not engaged. I don't feel safe here. I don't know how to succeed in this space, or even, I'm not sure that you see me. And if we jump straight into the discipline, we might shut down the visible behavior, what's happening, what we can see, but we haven't really addressed what's underneath it. And so once, let me give you an example. I had this adult learner in an evening class who was constantly on his phone, just constantly. And I was ready to get real strict and be like, that's it. 0 phones away, like, the rules of the class. But then I asked him directly, and he told me he was using a translation app to keep up because he was feeling embarrassed about his vocabulary compared to the other students. And without that conversation, I would have assumed that he was just being disrespectful or distracted in class. But in actuality, he was having a pretty strong feeling and trying to remedy the situation of being too embarrassed to engage with his classmates. So, disconnection can often look like defiance. And here's the tricky part. Disconnection doesn't always look like sadness or withdrawal or just kind of being despondent in the corner. Oftentimes it just looks like full-blown defiance, especially when students who have been labeled the difficult ones. When I worked in a school, we often passed notes about students when they transferred to different teachers' classrooms. And I think sometimes it's very detrimental. I don't think it's a good idea. Even when I do observations of trainees and courses and things like that, I tend to not look at the other tutor's notes prior to me observing them. I try to avoid it because it does impact how we see people. So when they're labeled as difficult or challenging, like, it's like, okay, they arrive in your class, they've got armor on already, and they've learned to kind of project themselves in this way. And honestly, I was that student at times, not because I had some deep-seated behavioral issue, but because I was bored, under challenged, and just wanted to kind of shake things up. So let me tell you a personal story about myself. Picture this little blonde-haired child. I know my hair has darkened as I've aged, but I was a towhead, completely blonde as a child. And I was just belting out Highway to Hell by AC/DC on the top of my lungs, much to my grandmother's absolute horror. She was very Catholic, my grandmother, my Grammy. She was just such a sweet person. And this was not her idea of wholesome after school behavior. I clearly was not going to be getting my good behavior sticker on my calendar that day. And this was me as a child. I had a calendar. If I was well behaved, I would get a sticker. And if I had so many stickers, I would get a treat. This is a true thing. Also, yeah, it's funny because like as I was pointing, this is my grandmother's bracelet too. So like I have very fond memories of my grandmother, but she probably had to take quite a few breaths when I was a child. Anyways, I wasn't trying to rebel against the institution. I'm just a little rebellious, but I wanted something. I wanted a challenge. I wanted attention. I wanted stimulation, anything to kind of break the monotony. And that happened all through my educational experience. I think I identify with problematic students because I think I was kind of a problematic student, not in terms of I was like a huge disruptor, but I don't have an easy personality. Let's just put it that way. It was, my mom always described me as like 0 or 100. People either love you or hate you, and that's it. There's like no in between. It's not like you have a feeling about me. It's like, oh yeah, she's all right. It's either like, no, she's great. Like, you know, or horrible. Do not get along with her at all. And that's just kind of been my life. Anyways, okay, so that's how eventually I ended up in like advanced level classes, piling on extracurricular activities. My parents always had me in like sports and clubs and things like that, and finding ways just to keep my brain engaged because my teachers hated that I never looked at my notes. I barely studied, and yet I still managed to pass all of my tests, and sometimes with flying colors. And I would show up right as the bell rang, I remember, because it was in my English class, my 12th grade English class. I would show up right as the bell rang because I had a car. I would drive to Dunkin' Donuts, very Bostonian of me. I know, just total Massachusetts child. Drive to Dunkin' Donuts, grab a nice coffee. I was always in like an oversized hoodie or some like sports thing or whatever. I had a bad attitude. I would sit in the back of class, and my poor English teacher it was his first year teaching. He didn't know what to do with me. But this pattern didn't stop in high school, actually. It followed me all the way through university. So now, which, hey, it is what it is. I have to be honest about who I was as the student. I was the one with the bad attitude, just kind of, you know, I would do what I needed to get done. I got accepted to universities, like actually prestigious universities, just bad attitude. So now I'm standing on the other side of the desk as the teacher, and I can see those problem students in a different lens, I think. Perhaps maybe because I've matured as an adult. Not too much, obviously, but sometimes the kid rolling the eyes in the back of the class is not trying to disrupt just for the sake of doing it because they're a jerk. They're craving some sort of engagement or depth or a reason to care about what's happening in the room. And this wasn't it's not just for teenagers and kids either. You know, the class clown adult that's always cracking jokes and tries to monopolize class time by like personal stories or complaining is just like always attention seeking. Yeah, we've all had them in our classroom. And if you haven't had them in your classroom, just wait, you will. And that's why I recommend kind of swapping control for curiosity first. So try things like what's going on today? Or, this feels different from last time. Anything I should know? Or even want to try this your way for 5 minutes and see how it goes? You want to teach? You want to do it your way? Well, we'll do it your way for a little bit and see how productive we are. It's not about letting students walk all over you. It's about showing them that you're not there to humiliate them. You're there to work with them. But the relationship comes before the rules. That's what I've found. That when you've got repeated issues, the natural temptation is just to like, tighten the leash. Strict rules, more consequences. But the problem is disconnection. Tightening, like when you have disconnection, tightening the leash actually makes it worse. right? Like you have to rebuild the relationship first. And first thing that I think that you can do is just see, like, is this student bored? Like, is this not challenging? Is the student embarrassed like my adult was when he was on his cell phone? Is the student under challenged? Happens a lot in teens classes. There's some teens that are just brilliant and they shouldn't be in teens classes. They should be paired with the adults because they go beyond. Oh God, I've had several, like a handful of teens in my career that they were talking about things even beyond, they're incredible. And so maybe they're under challenged hanging out with a group of their peers and they just don't fit in. Or you can check out reasons that are maybe unrelated to English because it's not the class, it's something else that's going on. So another little anecdote, I was working with a business English class where one learner kind of like always avoided the group work. Just never really wanted to do it. I was like, okay, but everybody else is doing it. Turned out she really felt judged by this more advanced colleague. And I paired her with somebody else that she really trusted and felt comfortable with, but they always seemed to be like sitting together. So it was easiest pairing. But then I realized that the pairing was the problem. So her participation like skyrocketed. So the goal isn't to abandon boundaries. It's to co-create kind of some of these expectations where students feel part of the process, that we have to rebuild the rules and say like, okay, we got to follow them because these are the rules of the classroom. We have to be productive, but also you got to kind of assess what's going on, And this person, it wasn't that she didn't want to participate, is that she didn't want to participate with that one, So you got to spot some of these signs early. If you're trying to catch disconnection before it turns into like full-blown behavioral issue, here are some signs. So sudden drops in participation, body language, crossed arms, avoiding eye contact, all that stuff. Pick up on that pretty easily. This subtle withdrawal, like no longer volunteering answers, you always kind of have to pull it out of them and force them, and passive resistance. This is one that I see frequently that people don't really pick up on. Like half-finished tasks, frequent excuses, trying to negotiate so that they don't have to do it. That's too much. And it's like, it's not too much because everybody's going to be able to do it. It's appropriate for your level. You should be able to do it. So why are you disconnecting here? Anyways, if you see any of these, try to intervene a little bit early. You can do some like low stakes conversations, kind of just like testing the water, seeing it. I mean, we teach people are messy, people have emotions, all that good stuff. So sometimes I try to do like a quick check-in during like break times or use anonymous surveys on like the phones and stuff like that. That works. You can give people kind of a safe way out of telling you that they're disconnecting because they're uncomfortable for whatever reason, or they're under challenged, or whatever. All right, so let's get tactical about this. Some practical strategies that you can use to reconnect people. Private check-ins, never call them out in front of a group. Doesn't work well. I had someone cry once. Yeah, don't do it in front of the group. Just kind of pull them aside. That was a very challenging. Actually, it wasn't even me. I had to the coordinator had to get involved. The parents were involved. It was a whole thing. Anyways, choice in learning. Let them pick between two different activities and different formats, and then you can kind of assess maybe this problematic student is just uncomfortable with certain formats. Do some micro successes. So start with something they can get really quickly to build their confidence, something that that it's going to be easy and comfortable for them. Just kind of like build them into it or engage them very quickly. Transparency. Telling them why you're doing a particular task. It's really amazing how often that resistance melts away when they understand, oh, this is the reason that we're doing this. Like, oh, okay, I see the direct application of this. And shared goals is another one. So work together to set 1 or 2 short-term goals so they feel achievable. Honestly, I feel like sometimes people disconnect because they don't notice the progress. We do as teachers, but they're not noticing the progress that they're having. So it's like, ugh. People need to have goals, and so they'll be able to kind of take it up like, oh, I can do this now. Oh, I can do that now. Oh, I can do this now. And, and then they have the list of the things that are coming up. So remember, don't lower standards. Don't tighten the leash. It's all about giving them some tools and some kind of like standards that they have to deal with. So here's what I've noticed. When you consistently address disconnection instead of defaulting to discipline, you can change the whole classroom culture. Students start to trust that you'll hear them out. The energy shifts, you get fewer power struggles, and you get more engagement. So here's my challenge for you this week. Next time you face a tricky student or situation, pause before reacting. Ask yourself, is this really a discipline issue or is this a disconnection issue? Try something curiosity-based, like a question, a small choice, see what happens. And you're not giving up your authority. Don't forget, you're using it to build trust, because trust is the foundation for every other success that you want in your classroom. Good luck.
That's it for today. If you want more, I've got binge-worthy playlists right here on the channel. You can also grab some resources at kellypenningtonelt.com, Instagram at kellypenningtonelt, and yes, even LinkedIn, where I do my best impression of being professional. Links below. See you in the next one.